Good morning, everyone. Good morning. My name is Asha Ramprasad. I'm a real estate agent, and I am also the founder of Act of Random Kindness, an organization that deals with food distribution and food and nutrition education for people with neurological disparities. Welcome to this workshop on our community's neurological health. What is neurological health? It refers to the brain and the nervous system controlling everything from how we move to how we think and how we feel. Conditions like stroke, dementia, and epilepsy are all neurological. This booklet contains important data about health in our community. The data shows that our community faces specific challenges or disparities, which means that groups of people here experience more health conditions and problems due to factors often outside our individual control. The goal of sharing the information is not to worry anyone, but to empower. By understanding the landscape of our health, we take better steps as individuals and as a community to improve it. Knowledge is the first step towards a healthier future for ourselves and our families. I thank you all for coming, and I hope you guys are able to take away a lot of information that's going to be given today. We have 2 raffles. We would like everyone to pay absolute attention because a question is going to be asked. That's one. And secondly, we have tickets where we're going to be calling the number for whoever has that number in hand. So on that note, I am going to welcome Ms. Maudelyn Maximo, a wellness educator and cultural activist who explores the connection between food, heritage, and hostelic healing for Black and Brown families. She's the founder of Soulful Living, a platform dedicated to helping parents create nourishing, intentional homes rooted in the culture and wellness. Her journey into plant-based living began while seeking hostelic approaches to support her son with autism and ADHD. Through that experience, she began studying the gut-brain connection, herbal traditions, and practical lifestyle shifts that supports emotional regulation and overall well-being. Today, Maudelyn teaches workshops and creates educational content that helps parents and professionals understand how culture, nutrition, and mindful living can work together to support children's development and their families. Welcome, Maudelyn.
Thank you.
Thank you, Asha. I am really happy to be with you guys today. So good morning. Can you guys all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So I hope you can see my screen because I brought a lot of visuals to share. But if you can, at least you can hear me. So let's first start with this. Let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. This is actually part of an oath doctors take when they are on their medical, it's like the oath to medical school. So part of the medical journey is to understand that food is your medicine and medicine is your food, right? If you make food your medicine, medicine becomes your food. So it was Hippocrates that said that. So we all know something about this man. He's the father of modern medicine. So that's an important thing to keep in mind as we venture. So a little bit about me. Asha mentioned that my son was diagnosed with autism ADHD, but there's more to the story than that. So I'm Haitian American, raised in Brooklyn. I'm a wife and mom of 2 boys. One of them is on the spectrum. The other one is more or less normal. I'm a social worker and educator. I work in higher education. Asha mentioned I'm the founder of Soulful Living, which is a platform that just educates women of color about heritage living, how our ancestors lived. I really had to look back because I remember my great-grandmother. I met her, but I didn't meet my grandmother. And I'm like, what's wrong there? Well, my great-grandmother lived on the land and ate a holistic diet. My mother and grandmother moved out of the plot of land and lived in the city. The quality of life became a little bit different. So my grandmother died a lot, like some 20 years earlier than my great-grandmother. And I want to stop that cycle. I'm also a children's book author and advocate for a holistic lifestyle. So now, a little bit about you guys. So Asha gave us a great definition of neurodisparity, right? She mentioned some labels that you might have heard of. For me, it's autism or ADHD. Sometimes it could be asthma too. So do you have a family member or loved one that has these labels? Yes, no? Yes. When were they diagnosed, if you don't mind sharing? 3, okay. When was the diagnosis?
I want to say around 5.
5, okay. All right. My son, when was yours? Late? Oh, okay. So that's maybe teens, early teens? Okay. Anybody else? Okay. My son was 3.5, and that was considered late. So we're getting to that later on. But catching that early is one of the main things that you can do to ensure that your loved one is in a different track, and we'll talk about that. So today, the point is to talk about understanding the gut-brain connection. What is that? Neurological differences and disparities. There's a difference between neurological disparities and neurological, let's say, neurodiversity. We're talking about something called the simple good framework. So small, practical swaps and changes that you'll make that will start to make small differences in your life. And then everyday tools that you're not using or you're not aware of that could be beneficial to you. And then some time for Q&A because we're going to be going through it. So, people often say, and I'm one of those people, the gut is actually the first brain. It is the first part of the embryo to develop. And it's the first, it connects to everything. Your skin, your digestive system is your gut, right? It houses a lot of the T cells and white blood cells that you need to fight germs, diseases, whatever it is. So the gut contains trillions of bacteria. Some are good, some are bad. We'll talk about the good guys and the bad guys, but the focus is on the good guys. So if you have more bad guys than good guys, you're gonna be, it's an imbalance, right? You're fighting more to feed the good guys because you need to have both. So up to 90% of serotonin is produced in the gut. What's serotonin? What is serotonin? You guys remember? Serotonin, it's in your body. It really helps to sleep. So if you're not making enough serotonin, you're gonna have issues with sleep. So making sure that some of the food that we eat, because part of your gut health is resting. And resting means that you produce enough serotonin during the day that gets released at night. That way you give your body, your gut, a chance to rest and be more prepared to fight the next day. So understanding what foods contain serotonin and how to utilize that is very important. If you don't have a good balance, you're probably inflamed, and you may not always know that. I didn't know how inflamed I was until I got into my holistic journey. So gut inflammation can and does affect. Some people say it can to a certain degree, but I believe it does. But that's my opinion. But the study says it can affect mood and focus. And for my son, he was diagnosed at the age of 3.5 with ADHD autism. The autism was fine. It's a different way of being, thinking, experiencing life. But it was the ADHD that was the problem because he couldn't focus, he couldn't sleep. We couldn't get him to do anything. So when we changed his diet, when we balanced the gut microbiome, we realized that was what was missing. He was able to sleep. He was able to focus. I used to get 20 to 15 phone calls a week from the teachers. Every time my phone rang, I was like, oh my God, what is it now? I nearly lost my job because I had to go to the school to pick him up or something. But when we changed his diet, slowly, it wasn't overnight, slowly but surely, the phone calls went from being 15 to maybe 12 to 9 to 0. It's been 0 for maybe the last 3 years. Because that helped my anxiety and helped my gut bacteria. So I believe it's part of it, gut inflammation. And in diet, so what gives you this, imbalance is eating ultra processed foods that can disrupt that balance. So if you're eating food with a lot of dyes, guess what they're feeding? The bad bacteria, not the good ones. You need to take care of the good ones. And the good ones, they need fiber, preferably plant fiber, but fiber nonetheless. And you guys can stop me at any point if there are questions. So let's talk about the gut microbiome. So your gut contains, again, billions and trillions of bacteria that regulate digestion, immunity, and brain signaling. So the brain and the stomach are constantly communicating. Beneficial bacteria help break down fiber, plant fiber, that the body needs to use to help you communicate. I'm not going to get into neurotransmitters and all of that because you don't need to understand the specifics right now. But some good bacteria actually help produce some of the fibers. They break them down so your body can use. So you guys have heard of vitamin B and vitamin K, some of them. Those are healthy for your cells. So they support your cell structure. That way, that communication between your gut and your brain goes a lot smoother. So it's easy communication. There's no miscommunication between the gut and the brain. And again, the brain is the first gut. I'm sorry. The gut is the first brain. The gut communicates with every part of your body, your skin, your nervous system, every part of your body. Your digestive system is in the whole process, and the gut is a big part of that. The brain communicates, actually, you know how they say, there's an old saying that, I don't know if you guys have ever heard that, the head and the neck. Well, everyone thinks the head is the most important, but if your neck is fractured, good luck moving that, right? So think about that way, so the gut is really underestimated. I would prefer to hurt my head somewhere not so hard over my neck, because then I can't use my head anyway. I can't move it because the structure, the foundation is the neck. They always say that the woman's the neck, the man's the neck. So that helps you to remember. But that's how important your gut health is, and it does not always get the credit. So making sure you understand health starts with the gut. The gut microbiome supports your immune system. We said that. And most of your fighter cells, your T cells, your white blood cells, they live up to 80% live in the gut. Produce compounds that support brain health. So your gut microbiome, again, produces some of the serums and things that your brain needs to support your neurotransmitters in your brain to produce a focus and help you to just not have that foggy feeling. And then the most part is to reduce gut inflammation, which helps you just feel better overall. So when there's a gut imbalance, we call that dysbiosis. Dysbiosis is just a fancy word for when it's imbalanced. It means that and we all experience that differently. Some of us might be constipated, but it's not a big issue. Some of us have this feeling in our lower abdomen that you feel uncomfortable. Some it might manifest in different ways. But when there's an imbalance, it's going to that phenomenon, you'll experience that differently. So again, digestive comfort, inflammation, changes in your mood and how you feel. So you need coffee, you need something aesthetic to really jolt your system. And that's not always a long-term solution, that's great, but in the moment it really does help. But the point is you want to make sure you address that imbalance. It might also disrupt your sleep patterns, so you want to make sure that's something that you address. But the goal is not to eliminate the bad bacteria. You're trying to get a balance. So you need the bad guys, but you want more of the good guys. So we mentioned neurological differences between and disparity. So I'm going to read this directly. So neurodivergent is how the brain works, and it's related to language. So my son, as someone who's on the spectrum, he's neurodivergent. So the way he experiences the world is very different. My son doesn't mind the weather at all. Like, he'll go out and it's raining and pouring. He doesn't need an umbrella. He's just like, it's just water. Like, it's fine. This is bothering him. My youngest one, that's 7, is like, no, I need an umbrella. So it's just a matter of how you experience the world. We have become more like, of an accepting society. I know that April is Autism Acceptance and Awareness Month, right? So that has something that has become more open. We figure out how kids learn differently, right? Just because I experience the world differently, it means that I take in information differently than the person next to me. So that's divergent. And it's a wide spectrum, right? It's not just the one label. But neurological disparity is the gap in support, resources, and outcome experienced by people that are on the spectrum, or the people who are neurodivergent. So you got diagnosed very late, right? That's a big gap in services. So my son was 3.5. So we started getting support for him, speech therapy, seeing a specialist at 4.5. That was a big delay. If you're already like in middle school, that's a lot of time that you didn't get that support. And I'm sure your experience versus someone who got it much sooner is going to be very different, right? Same thing, right? It's going to be very different. So let's say we have child A. Child A, diagnosed early, access to specialists. They have a supportive school environment. The school seems very supportive, right? You have information for parents. Parents know how to support their children. And the family has access to resources and therapy. So early diagnosis, supportive environment, access to support. That child is going to fare so much better than someone who was a child B, diagnosed or missed. That's the worst part. Sometimes it's completely missed. They say for it's misbehaving. The child is not understanding social rules, right? And it's just missed sometimes. So that's going to create limited access to resources and specialists, and that person might get a different type of support, right? Or none at all. So making sure that we address the disparities, the big gap that exists between having, right, this label and getting that support is addressed. So knowing when, what's normal, right? What's normal in terms of development. If your child is maybe not speaking as much by age 2.5, you start paying attention, right? Are they making eye contact? Are they having trouble expressing themselves? So then you can say, okay, let me follow through with a specialist, a pediatrician, or a developmental psychologist or a pediatrician to see, just to make sure, because sometimes there can be a delay, but sometimes it's a delay that needs corrections. So you want to make sure you're paying attention to this. That way the gap really narrows between, getting your support. So now, what do you do if you know that there's an imbalance, right? And it's important to address that. I believe in 2 things. Track 1 is to work with specialists. Your doctor, that's the first place to start. Pediatrician. They might refer you to resources that you will need. Being part of a community with parents who are experiencing similar, issues or challenges with their children or loved ones. Seeking the support of a specialist. So maybe a speech therapist, an occupational therapist, something like that. You need those social services. That's track 1. And there's no skipping that. Track 2 is doing your own work in terms of seeing, okay, what may change in terms of helping my child even further than the speech therapist or the occupational therapist. So I believe this is where we have more of control, more autonomy there. So what can you do if the gut becomes a problem and you need to, maybe you already have services, you are working with a specialist? The first, what I recommend is to get into a fiber-rich diet. So it means pivoting, kind of think about, okay, what am I taking in, and changing some components of your lifestyle. But the point is to support the good guys, the good vector. right? So it means that the bad guys are taking over. They're roaming the place, right? Think about your microbiome as a garden, right? If you have pests, I have a garden. If you have pests, good luck to you. You have to eliminate them. But you need a balance of good pests and what more bad pests, but you need more of the good pests, right? So the first thing we do is hydrate, that supports digestion and brain function. The second is daily habits that give the gut time to rest and recover. And we're going to go over this in detail. The third thing is small shifts that can be meaningful over time, just not, it's not going to happen the next 24 hours or the next week or the next month. And then digestive rest means at least not eating 2 to 3 hours before bedtime. So intermittent fasting, giving your gut time to just break down the food and then take a break. That way, when you wake up in the morning, it's better for you. It has more energy, more power to break down food. So I first recommend that parents start with some easy squats, and I brought some example of that. So my background is Caribbean. Where am I Caribbean? Yeah, we love rice, right? So I can't stop eating rice, right? It's part of my culture. Right, it's part of our culture. So what every day? Maybe not every day because it's not every day, but you can reduce it to maybe a couple times a week. But for me, so that's how I started. I went from every day, my parents are Haitian, every day, to maybe 3 times a week, if I'm honest, when I first started. It's doable. And then once a week, and then once a month. But what I do now is I found a swap. Once a month with real rice. But my swap is this. So this is chickpea rice. It's not something that I would say jump to when you're transitioning or when you're thinking about changing your lifestyle. Reducing is more important. Yeah, doing it slowly. I gave myself 2 years to do this. With my my son was 4, so I needed to do that because he didn't understand why we were doing it. So I gave myself 2 years to fully transition. And my entire family, I was fortunate with my husband and my youngest son, but he didn't have a choice. But my husband joined me in making sure that we supported our gut health collectively as a family. So we went from eating rice every day, rice and peas, the black rice, if you know, to once a month, which is what we're at now, 2 years later. And then every day or a couple times a week, this is what I eat. So this helps feed my good bacteria, not so much the bad. And then my kids, I didn't have kids, they love candy and stuff like that. So what I did was that I still bought, the normal candies, but I started reducing it. So I still bought the drinks, the soft drinks from the store, but I started adding water to it, diluting it. So it's giving their palate a chance to reset by not being so used to highly concentrated sugar. And sugar is a problem because not all sugar is good for you. So fruit sugars, natural sugar is fine. It won't spike your blood pressure, your blood glucose, right? But the bad ones that we most often have access to, they're the ones that is not beneficial. They're feeding your bad bacteria. So, but it's an addiction, right? We all grew up on it. We all like it. It's great. What you can do is slowly transition by diluting. So again, with the juices and whatever juice we were drinking, consuming, I started adding water to them. That way, like 6 months later, my kids were not as used to these like high sugars. So water became easier to take in. So when I made my own juice and lemonade and whatever, they welcomed that. When we transitioned to this, which is a little bit healthier, they welcome that. Now this is a little expensive, so we don't eat a lot of candy, but this is sneakers for me. If you remember Snickers, this is my version of Snickers. It's healthy.
Snickers?
Snickers.
Okay.
Yeah. This is M&M's, and they have different varieties. And then this is Reese's for me. But when I eat maybe 1 or 2, I'm satisfied. I don't need like a whole Snicker bar. So that's it. And I share that. This is actual my snack today. This is jerk mushroom. Jerk mushroom. And it's filling and it's actually, it's my snack. So I really do practice. And for adults, I recommend making your own, right? Experiment. So I know we don't have, maybe we're not on this. Experimenting. Making sure that, if you make your lemonade, maybe you use maple syrup instead of white sugar. Because the white sugar is not good for your blood microbiome. So just small shifts that can really help. Coffee. I mentioned, for the adults in the room, right? Coffee really helps you. But at the end of the day, you'll crash for most of us. So I did like a 50-50. This brand is called Café du Monde. When I went to Louisiana, that's what people were drinking. It's 50% coffee and 50% chicory, which is a prebiotic. Prebiotics are fibers that help feed your good bacteria. Good bacteria. So if you're drinking this combination of half chicory, half coffee, it reduces the effect that you have. Gummy bear swap, sugar, so much you can do to support good gut health. So making sure that you understand and that you have options.
I have a question.
Yes.
Sometimes I use raw sugar or brown sugar. How the difference between the raw sugar or brown sugar?
The raw sugar is less processed, so it's better for you. So it keeps most of the nutrients. So it's actually, if that's an easier transition, that's better too. Yeah, I would prefer that over the white sugar. So the whiter it is, the more processed, the more blanched, the less nutrients.
So brown sugar is okay as well?
It's okay, it's just they do process it to remove some kind of component that's hard for us to digest.
Okay.
So I prefer the raw.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
No part. So starting with a healthy breakfast is not a cliche thing. It's actually like something really smart to do. And the more fiber you put in your diet, the better it is. Because again, you're feeding the good bacteria, the good guys. So starting with, this is actually literally my kitchen, what I make for my kids, and the berries family. Whether you like blueberries, strawberries, blackberries, raspberries, cherry is also part of the, right. Cherry is part of the blueberry family, of the berry family. So my thing is, I like a smoothie. My kids hate smoothies. My husband hates smoothies, but I do. So I make that for myself, like those, single blenders, because I'm the only one drinking. And that's fine. But for them, I'll give them like a high fiber oatmeal breakfast. So I'll make not the instant one, because that's ultra processed. So that means that they remove most of the nutrients. The old fashioned oats, right? You need that. It takes maybe 2 extra minutes to boil. That's fine. You're giving your body what it needs, right? So 2 minutes is fine. We use almond milk, but if you want to use regular milk, that's fine. Just make sure you sprinkle a lot of berries on top of it, whether your choice is blueberries, raspberries, mulberry, whatever it is. I also eat it in the raw. My kids like that too. It's just a bowl of mixed berries. So the more colorful it is, the more they like it. So they'll do that. And when I have time in the morning, I'm going to be honest, I work a full-time job. Like, in the weekends, they get this. They get like, pancakes, or I'll make some and then I'll freeze it, so they'll have it, but they'll get like, pancakes made from the berry family. And I'll use like whole wheat flour, not the blanched stuff. If it says bleach, it means that it's been stripped of its nutrients. It's not going to help your good gut, right? Your gut bacteria. So starting with a high fiber breakfast supports your gut, supports the good bacteria, makes brain and gut communication much better, more seamless, so you can focus. So your kids will be able to focus. And for lunch, we'll have the leafy greens. So I always pair whatever rice or vegetable that we're having, so sweet potatoes, whatever it is, with either broccoli rabe. I find that it's less bitter, or kale or spinach or lentils or beans, because again, these have fiber. They're rich in fiber, and so they're going to support your good bacteria, right? Making that brain and gut communication seamless. So meaning that it does affect your mood positively, right? And it does keep you focused a lot longer. And we talked about digestive rest. So for me, I I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I'm supposed to go to bed at 10 p.m. I actually go to bed at 11:45 because I'm scrolling on Instagram, right? But I stopped eating at 7 o'clock. And I didn't always do that. Sometimes, I think I started at 9, and then I scaled it back to 8. So I realized, oh my goodness, I like how I feel in the morning. And then it was 7. I'm trying to aim for 5, but I don't get it. I have to quit my job. But 7 p.m. I stopped eating. Yes. Intermittent fasting. Yeah, intermittent fasting. Yeah, it's just giving me at least 2 hours of just before bedtime. Because if you go to bed and your body is still breaking, you know how you sometimes you eat a good meal and then you wake up and you're like, I'm still tired? Because your body was still working. And so when it's time for your gut and brain to communicate, the gut is like, look, I'm tired. You ate all this food. Thanksgiving, right? We all eat like a lot of carbs, right? And what do you do when you go to your grandmother's house, or if you're from the South or wherever you're from, Caribbean? You need a nap, right? The body is like, I need to put you to sleep so I can help digest all this food, because it's a lot of carbs that you took in, right? A lot of protein, a lot of things to break down. So I need you to take a nap, not walk around, because I have to go to work to break this stuff down. So making sure that you pay attention to that. Yes.
I know this having children on the spectrum, they don't put this in the regimen of those evaluations and things. So
Yeah.
they did, we need to go to a GI. I think I need to get.
Yes.
And that sometimes is a cause of them having these traits of overstimulation.
Right.
Like that.
Yeah.
And we need to be more aware of that. And then like push out with that. It's not only speech, mobility, things like that. It's also about the digestive. The digestive is a main factor of a child's development, emotions.
Right.
Right. Also probiotics.
Yeah.
Use that as well.
Yeah.
And it's also good, like, to detox.
Yeah.
Every couple of months.
Yeah. Yeah.
To detox.
Yeah.
You don't realize that that's a main essential thing to do for the child is to detox the stomach. So every once in a while, and you're going to sleep does cause regulation. Sleep cause emotional disruption for them to do. And a lot of people that's not aware of the world of autism, that does connect with them. So when they come into school the next day and they all erratic, sometimes they need to stop and take a look and say, did you get enough sleep?
Yeah.
Did you eat?
Yeah.
Because then they can narrow it down to how to deal with each other or each other.
Yeah.
White rice, yeah, we like to eat that, but my advice is like use your hand, make a portion of the rice, and eat small portions of it until you can eventually eradicate.
Yeah.
Or I think I'll use quinoa.
Yeah. I was gonna get into that. Yeah.
She was talking very softly because I want everyone else to hear what everything is saying. So maybe you could.
And also coffee. Yesterday I got this one. I need a power one. And sometimes I use this. They got rice, the mushroom.
The mushroom rice. Yeah.
So I use that as well at times. The mushroom rice. I kind of blend it, like you said, you blend it. And also, I don't know if you're gonna get to it about the clean food and the dirty food. You have certain food that you can.
So we have 15 minutes left.
Yeah,
Because the group is
if
going
you
on.
do a repetition of just that,
Yeah.
I mean, your gut will start to recognize that routine.
Yeah.
It will cleanse.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned a lot of great things. Thank you for a round of applause for that. That was a lot. Thank you for sharing. So you mentioned the gut, right?
Yeah.
That is dysbiosis.
Yeah.
That is because there's an imbalance and your gut can no longer function properly. That's leaky gut. And she mentioned switch doing smaller portions of things. And that wise mushroom coffee, it's because mushrooms are prebiotics. So I'm getting a lot of prebiotics biotics later. So if your coffee is acidic, right? I think it's like 7 point something, right? It's very acidic to the body. But if you put mushrooms in there, it kind of gives it a good balance. I don't think it neutralizes it completely, but it's a better start than just drinking plain coffee. So that's really good. Did you have your hand up too?
Oh, I was going to piggyback on what she said. Not being like country control, but a lot of things that do like sensory stimulants. We eat with our eyes first, and then we want to touch it. The moment if we touch it and it feels off, if it's not big properly, we're not going to eat it. And sometimes that can be like, a lot of parents are very unaware of the fact that they also need the sensory stimulants. So if we want us to have, you know, a healthy meal and like have like a fiber controlled meal diet, try to prepare it in a way where you know we're gonna want it instantly, not where, because parents get frustrated when their kids don't eat right.
Yeah.
It's not our fault. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not. And part of what I do with my son is that where he's in the kitchen with me.
Yeah.
So I know what he likes, I know what he doesn't like, and when he makes it, he'll eat it, even if it's bad.
Right.
He'll eat it.
Overexposure.
Right, yeah. So what I like to show you guys before we wrap up is, you know, just building your own plate. And I like what you said, you mentioned quinoa. So good for you. So when I started, my plate was this. So I had, so this is what I'm referring to. So I had half of my plate was vegetables. Because I want the high fiber. I want protein, plant protein, not just, you know, synthetic. And the brown rice or sweet potatoes or quinoa or my chickpea rice was maybe like a fourth of my plate. So that's because you need the carbs, right? You know, I like carbs. Yeah, I like carbs. I like that. And then, you know, the grilled chicken or fish. So I went from eating everything to like being pescatarian, and we stayed in that state for like maybe about a year. And then we're like, no, we're done with meat entirely. You don't have to be this dramatic, right? You don't. It's really each family, each person has to make their own decision of what works for you. So ultimately, we're here now where we cut out meat, where it's still like half vegetables, lentils, chickpeas, brown rice, or quinoa. But your plate, as long as half of it is the green leafy stuff, whether you call that salads, broccoli, you need to eat some raw component, because what happens is that the plant fibers line your gut wall, and it gets your body ready to digest the harder stuff, the more, you know, the carbs, the plant or animal protein. So we want to make sure if your plate looks like this, and it doesn't have to start out half. Maybe if your current plate right now is not, you don't have any greens or anything like steamed, that's fine. Maybe start that as a quarter, right? Because you're starting somewhere. And then eventually the goal is to do this, whether you're only eating plants or you're pescatarian. Or you're pescatarian, or whatever you decide. It's your own plate. So you make your own plate, make it work for you. And again, I took 2 years to transition, because I had to do it with my son and with my husband. So we were learning and teaching ourselves and figuring out what works. And some days we would go back to eating meat. You know, if this was maybe 5 years ago, that's fine. You fall. Just get back right up the next day, right? It's okay. It's a journey. And then lastly, because we have some good questions for you, I welcome you to do your own research. When I first started, Dr. Bobby Price, who is a wonderful person in our community, he went from being an FDA employee and a pharmacist to a holistic plant-based doctor with a farm in Atlanta. That shows you, you know, it's like, yeah, process that. FDA employee, pharmacist, to now holistic plant doctor with a farm. Okay, he's showing us his farm and his garden. His book, Vegetation Over Medication, I cannot recommend enough.
What is it again?
Vegetation Over Medication, Dr. Bobby Price. And he's only saying to work with your doctor, but make sure, what did I say in the beginning? Let food be thy medicine, and medicine be thy food. So that's what that concept is. And then this is my book. If you might get a chance to win maybe one of these prizes, one of these books. So I write a book for women of color, saying that I'm gonna take it back to like our heritage. I remember, so I'm Haitian American. I went back to Haiti when I was 8 years old, meeting my great grandmother, and she is not your stereotypical grandmother. This woman is walking around jumping, and she was 89, walking around jumping and, you know, all of this stuff. And I'm looking at her like, whoa, but where's your cane, lady? She didn't need that. She had a garden in her backyard and was just vibrant. And she died at think 103. My grandmother died 20 years earlier. Now my mother, where she's getting a lot better in terms of, taking care of her health, because I'm forcing her, we don't eat rice every day. She's doing a lot better. And I'm like, what was that? How does, you didn't get, it wasn't a car accident or anything like that. How does my great grandmother outlive my grandmother? And my mother is in the same path to not, be in the same age gap with her mother. So I'm like, no, I want to break that cycle. I want to live as long as my great grandmother did. Now to remember, okay, what did she do? Go back and learn the stories. And she lived a holistic life, connected with nature, and really making sure that she eats a lot more plants. And so that's what my book is about. It's called Soup Jumeau for the Black Woman's Soul. And it just talks about all the islands and all the tradition we have as Black Americans, Caribbean people, and just globally. What soups do we have in our culture, whether you're Nigerian, whether you're Trinidadian? What soup do you have in your culture that you use as a healing remedy, right? Before you take whatever over the counter. So that's my spiel. I hope you follow me on social media. I think I shared that. But now it's time for a Q&A, and then we have some quick questions.
Yes, hi. Does anyone have questions? I know someone was asking about chickpeas.
Oh, well, I found rice.
You found it?
Oh, you found it? Okay.
Miss Alice, you
What did you say about meats? To give up meats? Everything?
So I'd say it's a personal choice, but red meat is the most harmful. So when I read Shahrazad Ali's book, I don't know if you know her, she's a very prominent African-American historian and scholar, and she talked about what red meat does to us as melanated people. I was like, okay, no. So I started out with that, and I saw that I felt so much better. And then the next level is poultry. Because of the way that meat is processed in the United States, if I lived somewhere else, I would eat meat. In Italy, I would eat meat. Africa, I would eat meat. In the US, it's not so much the meat itself, the animal, but it's the injections. It's how it's treated. It's that it's not allowed to roam. It's the diet that they give it. It's not really helpful for us. And then if you're going to just maybe select one to keep, I would say fish, fish, maybe it's seafood, because it's farmed, but they have better regulations in the United States for farmed animals. So maybe being a pescatarian, I think it's the most healthy lifestyle if you don't want to be plant-based.
So pescatarian,
You only eat fish, you only eat seafood. Yes.
When you go to these grocery spots and buy meat, is the meat there bad too?
When you go, I'm sorry.
There's no grocery spots where you get the fresh chicken.
Oh, the halal thing.
Yeah, the halal.
They're a little bit better, but still, we don't know where, what diet that they have in their cage. The animals that Africans and other people like in Europe, the Italians, they bring the yards. Like they're not in cages and being fed, and they are diseased, and you might not know about it.
I was raised in Trinidad, and my grandmother had her own chicken.
Right.
chickens,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
So those are the meat I kind of grew up with.
Yeah, I eat that. Like I said, if I moved,
I could kill my one rabbit.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
what I was raised.
Yeah.
It's like in America now you realize like
right.
a lot of stuff comes from the supermarket.
Full of injections and antibiotics and steroids that are not good for you. Yeah, it's slightly better, but because there's no clear regulations on it, I wouldn't do it either. Like if I move from the U.S., I'll eat meat, but while I live here, no.
Well, that's true, because when you go back to home, the meat does taste better than the eggs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's actually yellow. Yeah. Right. Yeah, absolutely. So it's a personal decision. Yeah. But thank you guys for your ears, and again, I'm on Instagram.
Guys, we have handouts here. We would love if everyone, when we get to stand up, to have a takeaway so you guys can have more education on what we're talking about. We're gonna have the segment, so let's see who wins here. So we have a question for you guys.
Okay, so the question is, to allow for digestive rest, how many hours before bed should one stop eating?
3 hours.
Who said that?
Yeah.
You said that?
Yeah, I did say 2. Only 3 hours.
Sarah, come. Maudelyn, you wanna?
My sister from Trinidad. Congratulations.
Yeah, we face this one so we can get you. There you go. Okay, so where Maudelyn, I'm going to use one of your bags there. So we're going to do the raffle, guys. Shake, 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 shake. Who's picking? Who wants to pick? Sarah?
Yeah, Sarah.
Shake it up good.
And the number is
637005.
I think we only have one card. So here's what you get.
Stick it out for you. Here you go, you can see it.
Yeah, that matches. This is what you get. Congratulations. It's my book.
Can we have the first person who won come up here so we can take a brand? Yes, please. What book? Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, you gonna take it together?
Yes.
All right. So that concludes our workshop today. I do hope that you guys found it to be informative. And we have literature here we would love to share with you guys. So who's interested, please come up and have some.
And you speak about the next workshop.
Yes, we're going to have another workshop. We'll be sending you guys emails on the other one that's coming up where we're going to have live demonstration on, yes. Yeah, we're going to have a live demonstration on food preparation. Thank you.
And my mom is okay with it. My mom was born in Haiti, and she came here when she was in her early 20s. So she's now okay with it. What I do is that because we do a lot of vegetables, like I'll make vegetable for her, so she'll cook them. I completely forgot.